At least at the last count, about 13 candidates are aspiring to be president under the platform of the PDP, but only one person can represent the party to challenge other parties at the 2019 election.
Now, the party is now mulling the idea of presenting a consensus presidential candidate. It set up a 12-member committee to dialogue with the aspirants with a view to picking one of them as consensus candidate. And PDP governors have now disagreed with this call by the party's board of trustees for a consensus candidate. The aspirants are not also willing to step down and will be slugging it out at the party's primaries scheduled to hold early next month.
Yeah, how will the party ensure that the primaries will be devoid of disagreements is part of what we'll be discussing right now. We've been joined by the member of the PDP and political analyst, Segun Showmi. Segun, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now.
Good morning, Mike and Ngozi. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see you after a while. Now, let's get into this. When it comes to the issue of consensus, certainly I want to know what the specification of the constitution of PDP says, whether it gives room for direct, indirect, and consensus as to how the primary election should be or can be conducted. But why does there seem to be some seeming discomfort when the issue of consensus is raised?
Well, I don't think there is discomfort, really, to be honest. I think what really matters to the people is that the gladiators must be able to trust the process. And by gladiators, I'm talking about the candidates. Once the candidates are aware that nothing is being stacked up behind them to disadvantage one over the other, then obviously a natural consensus, or better put, a trimming down of the numbers will take place. But if that fails,
okay,
we will then be forced to ask that a free, fair, transparent, all-inclusive, credible primaries that all Nigerians can see should be the order of the day.
Yeah, but don't you think this consensus thing is likely to make or mar the fortunes of the PDP going into the 2019 general election? If, you know, the direct primaries or whatever mode of primaries that you want to use is the way to go, why not just do it instead of even thinking about a consensus, which some are already reading as imposition?
Well, I think that the party leadership that is playing with the idea of a consensus is well aware of the fact that we have a lot of quality candidates that have indicated interest. Among them, you have, of course, the primus inter pares, the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar. You have a former Minister of Defense in this country, Kwankwanso. You have a lot of good materials that are there. You have the present Senate President that is on the table. You have quite a lot of strong political personalities who are in their own merit and their capability qualified to be president. Therefore, it is wise and it is right for the party to figure out a way where they can call them all together and say, look, do we begin to drop the numbers a little bit? And therefore, it's a reasonable thing to do. But one thing everybody can go to the bank with on behalf of PDP is that you must have watched the way the party has been managed since Uche Secondus became chairman. He has tried the hardest he can to ensure that everything that is done is transparent. And you could have noticed that that was what happened in Ekiti. And you would have also observed that that was replicated in Osun. And clearly, there's no real evidence anywhere, except maybe the conspiracists who like to come up with all sorts of conspiracy theory to suggest that he's not going to stand by that same process for the national. Because our party is a very big party and a very strong party, we have a lot of organs within the party, the BOT, the NWC, the stakeholders of the party, who will be looking for all possible ways to ensure that the harmony required to go into an election united is not lost. And that's all you see there. You cannot compare us with any other political party in the country where you don't have processes that can manage us. We're very used to getting elections done. We're used to going through primaries. We're used to trying to figure out how best to trim the numbers. And obviously, we have also signed up to a transparent process. And I believe we'll get a transparent process.
Okay. Nigerians are still looking at the PDP is opposition as at today. And when it comes to that drive based on issues, based on what touches Nigerians, when it comes to delivering the message, Nigerians are still looking forward to your political party delivering that message, and they don't seem to hear that message yet as to what is going to be different when PDP comes on board, if they come on board in 2019.
Okay. On the messaging issue, you will observe that each of the candidates have been running around marketing themselves and projecting themselves, but the rules for campaigning has not been opened. It's not yet time for a full-fledged campaign. So at best, what you are getting from us is a little bit of our snippet of the messaging. Take the case of the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. He's running on 4 or at best say 5. He's running on job creation. He's running on opening up the economy. He's running on unity. He's running on security. And he's running on restructuring. That's the agenda for the Nigerian people. And the Nigerian people can easily interrogate and see that. And you can see that there's a commonality with all of our candidates. Almost all our candidates have signed up to the restructuring issue. And we're a party that is pro-business, pro-opening up the economy to get a lot of Nigerians to be employed. To bring all of Nigeria on board. And that's who we are.
It seems at this point, Segun Showumi, that the major challenge before the PDP right now, like you said earlier, all of the contenders, the gladiators, to use your words, are very strong. And these strong contenders may just turn out to be the weakness of the party. How does the PDP come up with a viable candidate who can really stand shoulder to shoulder, eyeball to eyeball with the man at the helm of affairs right now? President Muhammadu Buhari. Kwankwaso believes that he has what it takes because he believes he has the following and all of that. Saraki believes that he's a unifier. And all whatnot. They all feel that they are the rightful ones to be presented.
That's how you will know that PDP is an active party, is a party that is made up of quality people. All of the candidates, with the greatest respect to them, have earned their right to present themselves and to present their issues. But I will dare say that the PDP must look for certain things in the candidate. One of them is that the PDP must understand that you need a candidate that every part of Nigeria will feel comfortable with his leadership. And for you to say that every part of Nigeria will feel comfortable with someone's leadership, you need to look at his antecedent and where he's coming. You need to look at a candidate that has recognition across the lines of Nigeria, from the smallest and the lowest local government, even to the farthest point. You need to look for a candidate that has the robustness of ideas and the vision. You need to look for a candidate that can bring everybody within the party together and provide leadership for them. You need to look for a candidate that Nigerians can believe and trust. You need to look for a candidate that has name recognition almost on the same level like the president of the country now that is going to be challenging. And then you need a candidate that seems to be sure of precisely how to hit the ground running. And if you ask me, I think I can signpost for the PDP that they better look in the direction of the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar for their candidate. He'll unite the party, he'll unite the country, he'll create jobs, he'll open up the economy, he'll hit the ground running, he'll get all Nigerians to feel at home, he'll rework the security architecture, he brings in a lot of competencies along the lines of managing cross-border issues, and more importantly, he's a Nigerian person that Nigerians are really looking to make them with a referendum between what's happening in the status quo and the new thing to go.
Certainly. Your opinion is on one hand. If you speak to the camp of Kwankwaso, they will say the same thing. If you speak to Saraki, his camp, they will say the same thing. If you speak to David Mark's camp, they will say the same thing and all of that. But however, now, on the papers a few days ago, the APC on one hand called some of the gladiators in PDP who have been talking about restructuring as part of their message, as latter-rain converts, as cashing in on what they are doing, in the area of restructuring. How would you react to that, especially when you talked about the pedigree of some of these persons who have never really spoken for or stood for restructuring just until maybe recently?
I know a lot of latter-day converts are talking about restructuring, but I beg to excuse the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar from that list. The very first time he started talking about restructuring was during the Abacha Convention of 1995, and he has stuck with it. In 2007, when he was running for president under ACN, he talked about restructuring. In 2011, he penned a compendium, a big book on restructuring. In 2015, when Buhari was coming to be president, he was talking about restructuring. Right now that he wants to be president, he's talking about restructuring. And he's not just talking about restructuring, he's saying some detailed things about what he means to restructure. For instance, he's saying that it's time for you to take the things that are on the concurrent list, where you can then sign it off to the states, and the states can then start getting all the power and all the money that they can then go figure that. He's talking about how you're going to come up with a framework that can allow states to do state policing if they choose to do. He's talking about the framework that can unleash the potentials of each of the organs of the country along the lines that of our division now, states which they are, and give them the fillip and the power to be able to go after them. He's talking about how to give the entire nation a lot more and how to reduce the powers of the federal government to such that the federal government can worry about the fine things that the federal government should worry about, like security, like diplomacy, like international trade, like negotiation, like the big issues. And then you can give the states the power to do a whole lot more. And it's also saying that, look, we cannot pretend that the restructuring argument will go away when a good number of our people are talking about it. It's a strong issue in the South-South, it's a strong issue in the Southwest, it's a strong issue in the Northwest, it's a strong issue in the North-Central, it's a strong issue in the Southwest. So everybody's talking about it. Therefore, you need somebody who's going to sit there and get the job done, and that's Atiku.
Yeah, well, it's understandable that you're talking about Atiku, because you even described him earlier as primus inter pares, as now, first of all, has the PDP really provided the right kind of opposition in such a way that Nigerians are able to say, look, the PDP really can provide that kind of governance that we want? Having been tried before and was booted out more or less, would you say that the PDP really is a comeback kid? Or don't you think Nigerians are still wondering whether the PDP really has something to offer?
The difference between the kind of opposition the PDP provided and the kind of opposition that the APC, when they were trying to come into power, provided is that the PDP is a far more responsible party to the corporate existence and integrity of Nigeria. The PDP chose to engage the issues on a issue-by-issue basis. And they tried as much as possible not to engage in undue propaganda, not to try to shame the government ridiculously, not to try to overheat the polity, not to try to just say everything is bad. But the Nigerians and the PDP themselves are the judge of how the APC has performed. They have not done very well in employment. A lot of people have lost jobs. At the last count, we've lost 10 million jobs. That's what PDP is talking about. At the last count, we are now the most miserably poor country among the poorest of the poor in the world. We're even miserably poorer than India. That's what we're talking about. We're saying that you have divided, APC has divided the country ridiculously. People are just so divided. They've gone into their tribal and clan line, and we're saying we're united. We're saying security is not working. It's time for us to do a security overhaul, do an architectural renew, and ensure that other parts can now figure out how to secure the country. And APC obviously has failed in that regard. We're saying that, look, life of Nigerians are poorer. They are miserably unable to feed themselves. You've not been able to provide leadership for them that meets their hopes and aspirations, in spite of the fact that you promised so much. You have not done very well with the exchange rate. You have a ballooning exchange rate that doesn't reflect your earlier promise of 1-to-1. You have not done very well with job creation. You have not done well with poverty alleviation. You have not done well with infrastructure. APC has practically failed in all the major metrics. And so what the PDP is doing is saying that, look, we understand that Nigeria is our nation. We have no other nation than Nigeria. rather than run riot over the country and make the international community hate the government of the day for no reason. We're sticking to the issues.
Yeah,
and
but the APC,
for us to campaign, then we'll bring the campaign to them.
Yes, indeed. The APC has said through President Buhari that the weak elements that have actually stood in the way of, deliverables for Nigerians have actually shipped out, and so now they have more patriotic people who share the same vision of providing good governance for the people. What do you say to that?
There is a way a president is meant to speak, especially when you're still in office. The conversation and the words of a president must be presidential, and it must be unifying, and it must be dignifying. No president really worth his salt can describe high network members of his party who left the party because they couldn't find space there, or because they've been made uncomfortable there, or because their life has been made unbearable there. He cannot disparage them and talk about them that way. It's like forgetting what the contributions of those gladiators were in enthroning him as president. And I believe that when the time is right, he's going to have to pay for his indiscretion and losing them. For you don't win an election by disregarding people who are champions in their own right in terms of the management of their people at their basis. So I believe that the president, if he said that, it must have been a slip of tongue, and he probably could not have meant it really. What he would have probably been saying is that he ought to have been saying he's a little bit sorry that as leader of the APC, big players and high network people are leaving this party, and he needs to be encouraging them to have a rethink and come back. You cannot speak. It's come from the same mindset of us versus them. It comes from the same mindset of some 5%ers versus the 95%ers. That's where the real problem is. That's why the nation is divided. Obviously, under PDP, we are a very big umbrella. We're a big platform. We welcome all persons, but we just say to them, stick to the rules, obey the rules, act right, and let us all get together and let's go get Nigeria working again under a stable leadership that I believe Atiku Abubakar can provide. All
right, Segun, the not too young to run was passed, and a lot of Nigerians were happy that it's going to bring an injection of fresh blood into the political space and the political system. In PDP, we see so far, we don't see any new person, young blood or youth in that regard jostling for the presidency. And besides that, the nomination form, the cost of the nomination form is still a source of concern to a lot of Nigerians. Why it is that expensive, and how young people can be part of the system if the price for nomination form is that high?
Thank you for asking this very good question. What you have seen with the PDP is that we have continued to reduce and review downwards the price of the ticket, based on the fact that we're trying to give some accommodation to young people. For instance, House of Assembly now, they barely pay about 500,000 or thereabout. House of Rep now, they pay about 1.5 as against 3 million. Governorship now reduced downward. Even the presidency, as against 27 million or thereabout, they're paying about 10 million and then 2 million for expression of interest. Juxtapose that to the APC. The APC has actually even ballooned their own figures. They've increased the figures across board. So in actual fact, whereas the PDP is trying to reduce the price so that they can accommodate a lot more young people, the APC is increasing it, making it even more difficult for young people to be able to access. Now, why is the PDP charging some money? The reason why the PDP is charging some money for its form is because of the logistics required to prepare and plan for the primaries and all of the issues around preparing the candidates for election. We're trying to move away from a process where 1 or 2 people are providing all the money, and therefore they are dictating too much to the party. And that's what is that. And even at that, we have reduced the price significantly. We should just beg the APC to follow through on what they like to say. But you know the problem? A hypocrite will say one thing and he will act a different way. You sign off on not too young to run, and you go ahead and then you go and increase the price of all of the tickets across all board. You have increased it even beyond where it was in 2015.
Yes, indeed. We do get that point.
To the PDP, they can do many other positions.
Yes, we get that point, Segun Showme. But you call 12 million naira some money. Are you saying that the average Nigerian youth who is seriously interested in the presidency, who believes they have something to offer at that level, can actually afford 12 million naira?
There are creative ways to raise money for campaigns. Take the case of the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria now. His followers have raised that money for him. If young persons come in and engages the people and gets to them, there's GoFundMe, there's campaign fundraising, there are lots of other creative ways to get the money. The significant thing is that from paying 25 million in 2015, the PDP has listened to the Nigerian people. The PDP has listened to the not too young to run, and they have reduced it to 10 million, which is a significant reduction. Maybe next time around, they may reduce it a little bit lower again, but we cannot honestly say that there's no amount of consideration that is required to prepare the ground, do primaries, and all of the issues that party needs to do before they get to election.
Okay,
all right.
Yeah.
Now, the Nigerians are still asking the questions around issues of ideology. We keep talking about this. I remember having you on the show sometime where we talked about ideology. Not so many Nigerians know the difference. Now we have 91 political parties. Whether we have 91 different ideologies, no one knows. But when it comes to even the PDP, which is your party, not so many Nigerians understand what the ideology of the party is different from its manifesto.
Let's just put it this way. To help Nigerians and to help everybody who like to chew on the conversation around ideology. Let's say we now have two big parties in Nigeria, and we can say the APC is a little to the left, and we can say PDP is a little bit to the right. That's the best way you can describe it. But in terms of the distinguishing difference, what I would like to say is that the PDP, especially if Atiku Abubakar gets their ticket, will be a refreshing difference that has a difference of ideological leaning from what the APC and President Muhammadu Buhari holds now. Whereas one of them wants to put a lot of rules and a lot of clog in the part of business, throwing in fines every day and making life different for business, one of them will solve business issues with a business template idea that can solve the problem and be a little bit more pro-business. Whereas one of them would like to be a little bit clannish and work to get only a few people in charge. One of them will be pan-Nigeria, open up the economy and get everybody to be involved. Whereas one of them will not work too hard to get people out of poverty. The other one is going to open up the economy, get job creation as the central policy, and create jobs. Whereas one of them will not be able to manage interest around the table, while the other one will be able to manage a lot of contending interests. Whereas one of them will not work well with all the organs of government, not working well with the legislature, clearly having issues with the judiciary. The other one will be able to work well with the other organs and allow each of the organs to exercise their right. Whereas one of them believes that the views of the federal government or the view of the president, to put it straight, is bigger than the position of the law. The other one believes the rule of the law is supremos inter pares and is the most important for the country.
But
so you see, that's how you begin to differentiate between one and the other. And by the grace of God, I think it will be up to Nigerians to recognize that the 2019 is really about a referendum. 2019 is no longer an election. It's about choosing who is going to do restructuring and who is not. Who's going to create jobs and who's losing jobs? Who's going to open up the economy and get people to live life more abundant, and who's making life miserable for Nigerians according to statistics? We are now the most miserably poor in the world. It's about who's going to fight corruption properly as against somebody who's just going to be witch-hunting people underneath the guise of fighting corruption.
Yes, one of them that you talk about had all of 16 years to put all of these things in place, provide jobs, open up the economy, uphold the rule of law, and what have you. Would you say that they missed the opportunity? What is the guarantee that if they get that chance again?
You see, you're missing one thing, Ijoma. The point you're missing is that you're missing that in a democracy, however well you perform, people are going to vote for one party today and vote for another party tomorrow. It's like asking that in America, would the Democrats never win an election again just because the Republicans have won? Or say, would Conservative never win in London again just because Labour has won? That's a missed argument. The point is that democracy must provide the people with choices. And the people must go back to the people every 4 years to interrogate issues.
Yes, but there are, show me, there are 91 choices to be made. There are 91 choices to be made for Nigerians. Do you get my point?
Well, 91 choices to be made for Nigeria.
Yes.
No, I had only the part of 91 choices.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
91 choices to be made by Nigeria. What you have to see is that the bigger parties, the ones that have been at it for a while, just like you see in other countries, are the front runners. The 2019 election is a straight fight between the PDP and the APC. Just like you know in America, it's always the Democrats and the Republican. Like you know in the UK, it's always the Labour Party and the Conservative. Like you know in Germany, it's about the Christian Democrat and the Social Democratic Party. Like you know in Australia, it's about Liberal Democratic Party. It's always like that. Democracy is not an all-comers game. Everybody is involved, but you need to collaborate and get yourself to be a national party before you can provide reasonable national choices. And lucky Nigeria now, we have two parties to choose from. We have to choose between APC or choose between PDP. And truly, it's a straight fight. And I believe Nigerians should now truly begin to review how they are. They don't need to ask me. They need to ask themselves, how much were they paying for rice in 1995? How much are they paying now? How much are they paying for yam in 2015? How much are they paying now? How much are they exchanging the dollar in 2015? How much are they exchanging it now? How safe did they feel in 2015? How safe do they feel now? What's going on in the Middle Belt in 2015? What's going on there now? What's going on even with organs of the country and institutions within the country? How is it going now? What is the relationship between the executive and the legislature in 2015? What is the relationship now? Generally, you cannot have a democracy if people are not going to have an opportunity of choosing. I want them to choose and stand with PDP. Obviously, I also stand with Atiku.
All right, Segun Shomi, thank you so much for your time on the program today. It's really nice to have you on.
It's always a pleasure around you guys.
And the name is Ngozi, not Ijoma, by the way. He almost renamed me there.
Ngozi, forgive me while I was in the mood that I kept up.
I understand. That's very understandable. But of course, it will be left to Nigerians to decide whether it will be change for the sake of change or change because they are convinced that a change really truly has to happen.
When they say power belongs to the people. It's not in paper. It's not just in word.